February 1943. Tunisia. In the chaos of retreat near Sidi Bouzid, German engineers captured something they never expected: an American M4A1 Sherman tank, serial number USA 30677641. The crew had fought hard before abandoning it, leaving the vehicle largely intact. The Germans towed it to safety, expecting to find crude workmanship inside, a toy compared to their Panthers and Tigers. What they discovered would change everything. When the Sherman arrived at the Kummersdorf proving grounds in Brandenburg, engineers prepared for a routine inspection. They'd tested countless captured vehicles before: British Churchills, Soviet T-34s, French Somuas. But this one felt different. Its olive-green hull carried the simplicity of something built by the thousands. It looked unimpressive, even childish. Rounded armor, small gun, flat tracks. The Germans laughed. "This," one engineer said, "is how Americans fight their wars." But the laughter faded the moment they opened the hatches. The interior was clean, logical, accessible, designed for soldiers, not engineers. Wiring was color-coded. Components were marked for quick removal. The radial engine sat neatly inside its compartment, accessible from 3 sides. Every bolt, every panel seemed made for speed and repairability. It wasn't over-engineered. It was efficient. To the Germans, who'd built tanks like fine watches, delicate, precise, and temperamental, the Sherman was a blunt instrument of industry. They couldn't know it yet. But this single tank would expose the fatal flaw in German design philosophy. At Kummersdorf, they prepared to test the machine to destruction. Instead, they would find something indestructible. Not in armor, not in firepower, but in spirit. And before long, even the most patriotic engineers in Germany would have to admit they had never built reliability like this. The captured Sherman, soon nicknamed War Daddy II, began its long journey from North Africa to Europe. German reconnaissance troops drove it more than 350 kilometers across desert terrain before shipping it to Italy, then to Germany itself. Even that trip was an ordeal that revealed its strength. In the harsh North African heat, it didn't overheat. Its clutch and gearbox handled dunes that crippled half-tracks. By the time it reached the port at Naples, the Germans had already taken notes. One officer remarked, "The American tank behaves like a truck, not a tank." When the train finally rolled into Kummersdorf in spring 1943, a crowd of curious engineers gathered to witness what they thought was a joke. Most of them had devoted their lives to perfecting the Panther, the Tiger I, and the newly planned Tiger II. These were machines of majesty and terror, complex, elegant, deadly. The Sherman, by contrast, looked plain. But in that plainness lay the key to victory. At Kummersdorf, the tank was repainted for study. Engineers stripped its markings, weighed every component, and recorded every serial number. They were surprised to find precision machining in unlikely places: smooth gear teeth, consistent weld seams, and standardized bolts identical across dozens of subsystems. That last detail stunned them. In German tanks, parts often varied slightly between factories. Interchangeability was a dream. In the Sherman, it was reality. Wettinger, the senior engineer overseeing automotive trials, made an early note in his diary: "No excess, no waste. Everything meant for production." His words would echo months later when the tests revealed truths no one in the Reich wanted to hear. To understand why the Sherman shocked the Germans, one must understand their mindset. Pre-war German engineering was obsessed with perfection. Tanks like the Panzer III and I-4 were mechanical masterpieces, hand-fitted components, precise tolerances, and gear systems that required master machinists. Each tank was unique, almost artisan-made, but war demands quantity, not craftsmanship. America, with its vast automobile industry, knew this instinctively. Detroit's factories had been building millions of reliable engines long before the first shot was fired. When war came, those same assembly lines were retooled for tanks. The Sherman wasn't designed by dreamers. It was designed by mechanics. It had to be repaired in the field by a 20-year-old with a wrench, not an engineer with a blueprint. Its Continental R975 radial engine borrowed aviation technology, giving high torque and easy starts in any climate. The transmission used herringbone gears, smoother and longer lasting than the straight-cut gears of the Panther. German tanks, on the other hand, pushed physics to its limits, massive engines crammed into tight compartments, cooling systems that struggled under strain, transmissions that shattered under torque. To the Germans, complexity equaled superiority. To the Americans, complexity equaled weakness. And soon, the test results would prove who was right. By mid-1943, Germany's tank corps was suffering a quiet catastrophe. On the Eastern Front, Panther and Tiger tanks were dominating in duels, but breaking down faster than they could be repaired. In theory, their armor and guns made them unstoppable. In practice, they barely made it to the front lines. During Operation Citadel at Kursk, more than half of the new Panthers broke down before firing a shot. Transmissions seized, engines overheated, and final drives failed catastrophically. Field reports flooded Berlin with complaints. Our machines die on the road, not in battle. Engineers blamed rushed production. Generals blamed the weather. But Oettinger began to suspect something deeper, a flaw in the entire philosophy of German design. Tanks built for brilliance couldn't survive the brutality of war. When the Sherman arrived, it became the perfect control subject, a foreign machine designed on entirely opposite principles. So Kummersdorf scheduled full endurance tests. The goal, find how long it could last before total failure. The Germans were certain they would prove American mediocrity. They didn't know they were about to expose their own. The testing began with basic trials: mobility, engine endurance, fuel efficiency, transmission durability. Day 1, the Sherman roared to life instantly, even in sub-zero temperatures. Day 3, it climbed muddy inclines where the heavier Tiger struggled. Day 7, it had already logged 500 kilometers with no major faults. Oettinger's notes grew more incredulous with every day. Design focus, ease of service, every access panel reachable. Components replaceable by hand. The Germans were used to crawling inside tanks for repairs. The Sherman could be serviced standing upright. By kilometer 900, only a small transmission mount cracked, easily replaced in 2 hours. The tank resumed testing the same evening. By kilometer 1500, it was still running. The team compared it to recent Panther data. Average gearbox life 700 kilometers. Tiger final drive life 500. The Sherman had doubled both numbers. The revelation was undeniable. The secret wasn't genius, it was restraint. American engineers had built a machine that could fail gracefully and be repaired instantly. They accepted imperfection to achieve dependability, and that philosophy, Oettinger realized, might win the war. The test reports from Kummersdorf were compiled into a 68-page document titled Versuchsbericht über amerikanischen Kampfpanzer M4A1. It compared the Sherman directly with the Panther, Tiger, and Panzer IV. The verdict stunned everyone. The American tank demonstrates superior balance between durability and production efficiency. Service accessibility is exemplary. When Albert Speer received the file, he forwarded it to Hitler's headquarters with a terse note. The Americans have achieved what we have not: mechanical reliability. Hitler ignored it. He ordered more Tigers. But inside the engineering circles, the seeds of doubt had been planted. Oettinger proposed adopting modular components and simplified gearboxes for the next generation. E-Series tanks, E50 and E75, standardizing engines and transmissions across models, exactly as the Americans had done. It was a quiet revolution born out of humiliation. Autumn 1943. On the front lines, the difference between philosophy and practicality turned deadly. German armored columns advanced with fearsome power, but within days, their vehicles stalled. Mechanics were exhausted. Spare parts scarce. Allied Shermans, though outgunned, rolled endlessly forward. One Panzer commander wrote bitterly, "We are defeated not by their tanks, but by their mechanics." When Ettinger urged simplification again, a general snapped, "Are we to build tractors now, Herr Doctor?" Ettinger quietly replied, "If tractors win the war, then yes." His words became a whispered legend at Kummersdorf, heresy to some, truth to others. As 1944 dawned, operational readiness for many panzer divisions fell below 40%. The Shermans averaged above 80%. Pride had built masterpieces. Pragmatism would win the war. Winter returned, and the Sherman endured new trials. Deep snow mobility, frozen engine starts. Endurance runs under stress. Even when drained of oil and run until seizure, its engine lasted 40 minutes. The final report concluded, "Bluntly, this vehicle cannot be destroyed by mechanical means within standard testing limits. War." Daddy II had done the impossible. It convinced Germany's finest engineers that the enemy's simplest weapon was also its most powerful. The Sherman didn't symbolize dominance. It symbolized discipline. By 1944, Oettinger's ideas quietly influenced Germany's design bureau. The planned E-series aimed for interchangeable parts, easier maintenance, and fewer machining hours, clear echoes of the Sherman. None reached mass production before the war ended. But the philosophy survived. After the war, many German engineers joined NATO programs and applied those lessons to the Leopard 1. Across the Atlantic, American designs, from the Pershing to the Patton, carried the Sherman's genetic code: modular systems, field-repairable layouts, and dependable engines. The captured tank at Kummersdorf had rewritten the future of armored warfare. On D-Day, hundreds of Shermans landed in Normandy. By the end of summer 1944, tens of thousands rolled across Europe, each one simple, cheap, and, above all, dependable. For every Tiger lost to breakdown, 10 Shermans advanced another mile. The Allies had weaponized industry itself. As one Panzer officer wrote, "We cannot outfight a nation that can repair faster than we can move." Even Speer later admitted, "The Americans understood what we did not. Endurance decides the war." When peace returned, Sherman tanks still rumbled across Europe, some in French service, others in Israel, Japan, or South America. Decades later, the Leopard, the Patton, even the Abrams carried echoes of War Daddy II. The lesson from Kummersdorf was eternal. Genius is not in perfection, but in persistence. Reliability became the new gold standard of military design, the hidden legacy of one captured tank. No one knows what became of War Daddy II. Some say it was melted down. Others believe it rusts in an unmarked hangar somewhere in Brandenburg. But its spirit endures, in every tank that starts without fail, in every mechanic who trusts his machine. What began as a captured curiosity became a revelation. The Sherman wasn't perfect. It wasn't the strongest. But it was the one that kept going when all others stopped. And in that persistence lay victory. Power may win battles. Reliability wins wars. And one humble Sherman proved it to the world.